Welcome to the Balanced Blueprints podcast, the show where we break down the real challenges of balancing high school academics, sports, health and wellness, mental well-being, and home life. I'm your host, Harper, and if you've ever felt like there just aren't enough hours in the day to juggle practice, homework, family, and maybe a little bit of time for yourself, then you're in the right place. Each episode, we will dive into practical tips, real stories, and expert advice to help you stay on top of everything without burning out. Whether you're an athlete struggling to keep up with schoolwork, a student pushing for straight A's while trying to maintain friendships, or just someone looking to balance in a busy life, we've got you covered. So take a deep breath, grab your water bottle, and let's figure out this crazy balancing act together. This is the Balanced Blueprints podcast. Let's get into it. This is Jabari. He is a single sport athlete, right? Single sport athlete, so just tell them a little bit about yourself.
My name is Jabari. I play football. I'm 16. I go to Gardner Magnet High School. I've been playing football since I was 5. A lot of my inspiration came from my father to play football, and in the future, I want to be a business CEO for production and landscaping companies, and I want to play at the next level, playing football.
So how do you work to achieve those things?
It's an everyday thing with me, something involved with my life every day pertains to me achieving my goals.
Do you have, what specific goals have you set to achieve the business and all of that?
Well, by the end of this year, I want to at least open my landscaping business. But also for my production, I'm kind of under somebody's wing right now, so I'm just getting introduced to all that. So now I'm just stacking up days, hours, time, just working under their wing. Also along with making money, but also just learning the ropes of all that. So.
Okay, well, I'm just going to ask you a few questions and just answer them to your best abilities, no pressure. And you can tell stories, answer them however you want. So, have you ever had to choose between school and sports, and how did you handle that?
I think it's always a choice because you have to bring balance to everything you do. Without balance with being a student athlete, it kind of just doesn't work. Balance is a needed thing when it comes to being a student athlete. So as far as picking between the two, I think that's a necessity when it comes to being a student athlete, because without balance, one's going to take over the other and one's going to go lacking.
What does academic success mean to you, such as grades, understanding, or does it mean something else?
As far as the academics, I always thought of academics as a way to get to the next level. As far as college, I've always wanted a scholarship, but it's hard to want to do academics because all I want to do all day is go to football practice.
Right.
So when it comes to academics, it's always been okay, this is a stepping stool to get what you want. At the top of that is of course going Division I, Division II, Division III JUCO, but as far as academics, that's a stepping stone. It's like a stepping stool. It's like stepping stone to get to the top. You had to have this to get to there. So
right.
Academics is the thing. It's the most important of the steps, so probably the tallest before you get to the top. But as far as academics, it's a tool to get what I want as far as being a successful athlete.
So would you say that academics, what do you put first, academics or sports?
Must be academics. If you don't put academics first, football doesn't come with that. As far as academics with my coach, that's the most important thing to him. If I don't have my grades right, I don't play football. That's another thing with my parents. If I don't have my grades right, I don't play football. So I no matter what I do, no matter how high I get as far as football, you got to put your grades first.
So do your coaches give you time to put your grades first and give you time to work on your work? Because I know that you guys have football practice from after school until sometimes 8 o'clock. Yeah, 7, 8 o'clock. So how do you manage your time right with getting your work done?
I wouldn't say that our coaches do the best of that, because also there's a lot that goes into football. to be able to be a successful football team. Like, as much as we practice, as much as we rep the things that we're going to do on game day, there's a lot of factors that go into the game as far as athleticism, mind, mental strength. Like, there's so much things that you have to go through during the week that when it comes to game day, like, you really still don't even have enough time to have everything perfect down because there's so many extra factors. So going back to the academics thing, like, of course our coaches could do better with giving us time, but also when it comes to being an athlete, if you're serious about being a student athlete, which means putting the student first, you have to be prepared, and that means in every aspect of your life.
So how do you balance the need for discipline when it comes to football? How do you balance the need for discipline and know when you're overworking yourself and when to stop?
I feel like discipline is the main reason that I know how to balance my life. Like, when I'm extra worked up with school, like, I know how to, like, manage my time to a point where, okay, like, in my mind, like, my mind is constantly going. It's like putting things here, putting things there. Like, okay, I need to be able to balance this. And it comes from all the years of just being a student athlete. Like, I know if I don't have my grades, I'm not going to be able to do the things I want when it comes to, like, my parents and my coaches and all that. So, like, when it comes to, like, being discipline is that factor that has to be used in order to be able to balance all those different things.
How do you deal with the pressure of performing in both sports and school? First of all, what position do you play in football?
I play running back.
And have you always played running back?
No.
What other positions did you play?
That's actually a crazy question because I started off on the offensive line when I was younger, and I was probably like one of the smallest kids out there. But then I moved to tight end, and then I played running back from, that's hard, I've been playing running back since I was in 5th grade. So yeah, I've always played running back since like 5th grade.
So how do you deal with the pressure of performing in a game, and what's that like?
The pressure for performing in a game, if you've prepared enough, that pressure kind of just goes away once you get into the flow. Like, once you get into a flow of a game, like, your mental just shifts to the point of, like, okay, I've done this before. Like, before every game, it's a mental battle with yourself of, like, oh, damn, I'm about to play a game. Like, you know, like, it's a mental battle every game. It's gonna happen whether you want it to or not. But when you've prepared, when you've practiced, when you worked out, when you put in those sweat and hours, like, it's like, okay, when you get into the game and now, like, you're getting hit 30 times a game, it's like, okay, I've done this before.
Right.
Like, now it's time to, like, okay, just do what you usually do. And it's kind of like muscle memory. Like, I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. Like, okay, like, now it's like, and it doesn't really come from pressure to do well. It comes from, like, okay, I want to succeed, so now I have to do the things I need to do to succeed. I never thought pressure as, like, okay, I gotta do well. It's like, oh, I want to succeed, so these are the things that I need to do to succeed. So now you gotta go put your body on the line 30 plays a game to get what you want.
So would you say that it's more pressure from yourself, or it's more pressure from, like, everybody watching you?
Myself.
Yourself. So how do you deal with, like, negative self-talk, and how do you persevere through that?
That comes from a lot of, like, just alone time, and, like, just me and my homeboy were just talking about this a couple minutes ago. Like, when you're a mentally trained athlete, like, you separate those moments of, like, self-doubt and other things like that. You separate that from, like, when it's time to do what you need to do. Like, when it comes to self-doubt, like, you put that aside when it comes to game time, because no matter how much you doubt yourself, no matter how much it's like that, like, when it comes to a game, like, you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get all those things that's normal in a football game. So it's like you have to put those self-doubts aside when it's time to play football, because, like, you just have to put those things aside when it comes to getting hit 30 times a game, because it's like when it's time to play football, it's time to play football. You can't really have no doubts because like that's how you get hurt.
Right.
You know, like you can't be scared. You like you have to get like it's inevitable. So when it comes to having those self doubts, I kind of just like try to put that aside into my personal life, which I deal with like outside of practice, outside of games. And when it comes to like practicing games, like I said in the last question, like I've done this before, so it's like okay, it's a muscle memory type thing. So now I'm prepared and I'm ready to do what I need to do. So yeah.
So, after a tough game, both mentally and physically, how would you recover?
Physically, I try. Like it depends on the game. If it was a hard game, ice, of course, ice, heat. Those are the two things I do the most. This coming up here because I plan on, depending on how my off season goes, will be playing a big part in the team as far as like workload. So like when it comes to games like that, I'm planning on getting into like a physical recovery cave. It's like somewhere around Raleigh, but yeah, that's how I would physically recover. But mentally, it depends win or loss, of course. But like when you lose, like you just have to go back to your drawing board. Like it's to the next week. Like you can't really like stay on it for long. Like after that, after you leave the facility after the game, like it's like okay, you got to go back to the drawing board, figure out who you got next week, and move on. Like mentally with football, you can't be stuck on so many things for too long because if you stay on those things for too long, it's gonna affect your game beyond that. And you can't really have that. If you have a bad game, like of course, it's just again go back to the drawing board. Like nothing, like you have to have short-term memory loss when it comes to football. That might sound bad, but like, yeah, you have to have short-term memory loss when it comes to football because like it can affect your game for many weeks.
Not only can it affect your game, but it can also affect the following practices going into the next week.
Yeah.
Because I know with cheer, if somebody was in a bad mood in cheer, like at practice, then it just put everybody into a bad mood. And then that practice just goes from being a really productive and focused practice to a sluggish and like lazy practice.
Yeah, when you're like I'm an upcoming senior, and a lot of the guys that are with me in the senior group, if we're down. Like right now, we're building that reputation of, okay, we're the upcoming seniors, we're going to be the leaders of the team. When you're a leader and one of the most vocal people on the team, when you're that guy that's, okay, when we're doing wrong and we need to tighten up, if I'm having a bad week, like if me and the team, me and my seniors are having a bad week, the team's having a bad week because
right.
we're the guys that Coach D counsel, and when it comes to like being that tone setter when it comes to practices, when it comes to getting ready for games, we're the tone setter. So like when you're the tone setter, if your tone isn't where it needs to be, you put the rest of the team in danger as far as like performing well because the team morale's down.
Right. So like I said with AJ, when it comes to the social media and popularity and glamorous part of it, and like being that like jock athlete, how can students protect their mental health and set boundaries from social media and other people who are trying to drain them? How can students set boundaries to just help them stay away from that?
For myself personally, I don't use it to judge myself. I use it to drive me more than anything. Like, when I see other people succeeding, it makes me happy because that's some place that I dreamed of being. And, like, okay, you've made it. Like, bro, like, congrats. Like, you know, like, and God comes into a big play of that because it's like, okay, his plan for me is above everybody else's. So, like, if this wasn't in my plan at the moment, like, why should I be mad that he put that in somebody else's plan? Because maybe one day that God has a bigger plan than that even. And that could be in a different area of my life. That could have been for that person. It could have been in football. Maybe when it comes to my businesses, God has a bigger plan than that. So, like, I don't ever, like, use social media as, like, whenever people post offers, I try to, like, encourage them because it's like, bro, you just like solidified your future. Like even when you get your first offer, you solidified your future. So it's like, bro, like you just, like, I tell people all the time, there's so much free money out here, bro. It's so ridiculous. Like, there's so much free money. Like, do you know how much it costs to go to college? Like, and kids are out here solidifying their futures within their freshman years. Like, that's so good. And like, I don't have any offers going into my senior year, but like, I know God's plan is above all everybody else's. So like, when it comes to social media, like, I look at it as like, and it kind of drives me like, okay, I need to work harder now. I need to get in the gym even more. Like, it just drives me to the point of like, I'm just a mentally focused person. So when it comes to those things, like type social media, like, just like, when it comes to that, if I was giving advice to another person, like, just know that God's plan is above everybody else's. So like, don't compare your plan to other people's plan, because that's when you're not letting God work on you. You're more or less just shoving him aside and being like, oh, that's what I want, and somebody else got that, so now I'm mad, or I don't feel good because of that. Don't think of it like that. Just think of it of like, oh, this person succeeded, like, that's good, and maybe if that was in my plan, I would have got that. But you also just have to be confident in his plan, because eventually it's going to come. If you count other people's blessings, you're going to miss yours.
So, has there ever been a time where you thought that God was trying to tell you one thing, but then he completely turned it around and like shot you back the other way? And was that confusing, but how did it help you?
When it comes to God, like, there's a lot of ways that like it feels like you're in a room full of people and you're getting pushed around in the middle of a circle, like a whole bunch of different ways, and it's kind of confusing, because like God will tell you one thing and you'll think it means this one thing, but it actually means another. So like, and it just feels like you're getting shoved around in a whole bunch of different ways, but eventually like something like, just, it might be minor, it might be mediocre, it might be huge, but like something like that will happen when you come to the realization of, oh, this is what that did for me, or this is what that situation did for me. Like, this is, and maybe it wasn't bad as you thought. Like, God comes to me in ways where, like, okay, he might put you in a bad situation, he might have you feeling this way, but at the end of the day, it might help you grow as a person. So like, when God puts you in like deep situations or bad situations, when it came to my injury halfway through the season, I'm like, oh, I'm missing the rest of my junior year. I just got to a new coach. Like, I don't know how to handle this anymore. It allowed me to sit down, work on the things that were going on in my personal life to help me heal from those, and to move on to now being mentally focused, being able to mentally focus on football, but also to be physically focused in order for my senior year. So when it came to something bad happening to me, like a freak accident, like a helmet hitting my leg, like, it came, like, it may have looked bad at the start, but at the end of the day, it helped me mentally focus, because after that, there was a lot of things going on where I wasn't mentally focused. So it helped me mentally focus and also be physically ready to put my all into the off season and get ready for my senior year.
So, what tips would you give to not only people who are younger than me and you, but people who are older and feel unbalanced when it comes to sports and academics? And what tips would you give to them just to help them balance all of that?
Put your academics first. Don't ever put your sports first. Put your academics first. I put it as academics, sports, success. Like, if you don't have academics, you don't get to the sports. If you don't have both of those, it's not necessarily you don't get to success, but you don't get to where you want to be if that goal is success within the sports area. And then also in like just life period, like, if you don't learn how to balance those two while putting something first, that's a necessary life skill. So if you don't have those both, like, you gotta put your academics first, and then the sports will come with it. It's a natural thing. Like, if you put your academics first, your sports will eventually come with it, and then if you can put those together and have those moving like a well-oiled machine, like then that's when like the success in both areas come, and that's when not only success in athletics comes, but opportunities in academics as far as scholarships come, academics in the area of sports come, and like just a whole bunch of different things like that. Like if you put those academics first, your sports will come, and if once you mash those together, that's when the success comes.
Well, that's all I have for you. So thank you for coming onto the podcast. Again, this is Jabari. No shout out.